Hello friends, welcome to the class on consumer behavior. We can start with the title, Consumer Behavior. It is about the behavior of consumers. What is behavior? Behavior is the way in which one acts or conducts, especially towards others. Under the study on behavior, we try to study the responses and reactions of persons towards others in different situations. Here, under consumer behavior, we try to study the behavior of consumers. Who is a consumer? Any person who purchases and uses goods and services is called a consumer. In simpler words, the term consumer includes the person who purchases goods and services and who uses them. Here there is another question about the term customer. Who is a customer? Is there any difference between customer and consumer? The person who purchases goods or the person who avails services is known as customer. But the term consumer includes the user also. For example, when rice is bought by father and is cooked by mother and eaten by all the members of the family including father, mother, children and grandparents, all are coming under the term consumer. Thus, the term consumer becomes a wider term than customer. Here, father is the person who is treated as customer by the shopkeeper, but all the members, including father, are coming under the term consumer. This underlines the fact that when a marketer tries to study the behavior of his market, he should study the behavior of consumer and not about the buyer or customer only. Because the term consumer includes the customer and all other related persons who influence the customer in the purchase. That is why the study is termed as consumer behavior. We all are consumers. Daily we use many products that we buy from the market according to our needs, wants, preferences and purchasing power. What do we buy? How we buy? When we buy? From where we buy? In what quantity we buy? Everything depends on various factors like our needs, preferences, attitudes, age, gender, family, social and cultural backgrounds and many other factors. The purchase decisions of consumer are influenced by these factors in one way or other. It means that on marketing point of view, when a marketer formulates the marketing strategy for his product, he should conduct a study on consumers. Through this study, the marketer gets some ideas about the consumers, their needs and preferences, their social, cultural, economic and other environments. Thus, the study helps the marketer in formulating marketing strategies in accordance with the particular environment of the consumers. Proper study of consumer behavior is important as all marketing decisions are based on assumptions about consumer behavior. Definition of consumer behavior. Consumer behavior can be defined in another way also. It is the study of individuals, groups or organizations and the processes they use to select, secure, use and dispose of products, services, experiences or ideas to satisfy needs and impacts that these processes have on the consumer and society. Consumer behavior studies how individuals, groups, and organizations select, buy, use, and dispose of goods and services to satisfy their needs and desires. Next topic is consumer roles. Under the subject consumer behavior, the parties coming under the term consumer are classified on the basis of their roles. These roles are buyer, initiator, influencer, and user. In our example, father is the buyer. What is the role of mother here? Mother is the person who firstly identified the fact that the rice is getting out of stock and there is an urgent need of buying it. She may be called the initiator who begins the entire process of buying. Initiator is the person who identifies that there is need for something and there is the need to make a purchase to satisfy the need. Then what is your role? You and your family members are the users who consume and enjoy the rice as a favorite food. Perhaps one of you may advise your father to buy a particular brand of rice as you feel that the brand is tastier than others. Here you influence the buyer to buy a particular brand. You are influencer also. Your mother may also be an influencer as she asks for urgent purchase as the same is getting out of stock soon. Some may have multiple roles and sometimes all the roles may be performed by the same person. These roles, the roles of initiator, influencer, buyer, user, etc. can be called as consumer roles. This can also be called as buyer roles or buying roles in the buying process. Who is an initiator? The person who identifies or determines that some need or want is there. The initiator finds that a product is to be purchased to satisfy the need. Then who is an influencer? A person who by some intentional or unintentional word or action influences the purchase decision, purchase or use of the product or service is called influencer. He influences the purchase behavior. Then who is the buyer? The individual who actually makes the purchase is called the buyer. Then who is the user? The person or persons who directly involved in the consumption or the use of the product. Sometimes there may be one more role in between these, that is the role of decider. Decider is the person who takes the purchase decision or who has the authority to take the final purchase decision. In companies and organizations, this role is also important. Next topic, scope of consumer behavior. Scope discusses the areas included under the study on consumer behavior. We know that the study of consumer behavior deals with understanding consumption patterns and behavior of consumers, especially in relation to their purchase decisions and related aspects. It should include answers to the questions such as what, why, when, from where the purchase is taking place, what the consumers buy, what type of goods and services they buy, why they buy, their needs and wants are referred here, then when they buy it, type of purchase, and frequency of purchase, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, or occasionally. All these things are coming under the term. Then from where they buy it? The place of purchase. Why do they select such a place? The answers to these questions are coming under the term consumer behavior. The scope of consumer behavior thus includes not only the actual buyer but also the various factors and roles. For the purpose of study, we can summarize the scope under 5 heads. The first head, decision making process. The study on consumer behavior includes decision making process. This includes the stages of decision making, the need recognition, information search, evaluation of alternatives, purchase activity, post-purchase behavior, etc. should be studied here. Then as a second area, we can study the actual purchase behavior. This includes the visible physical activity of buying. It is the result of the interplay of many individual and environmental determinants which are visible. Here we study the actual behavior of consumers at the time of actual purchase. Their reactions, responses, expressions, habits, etc. at the time of purchase are coming under this topic. As a next point, third point, the individual determinants. The consumer as an individual, what are the factors affecting him? Under this component, we study the individual or personal factors affecting the consumers. It includes their attitudes, personality, gender, age, values, beliefs, etc., which have some effect on their purchase behavior. And the fourth area of scope is the environmental factors. Environmental factors which influence the consumer decision process. The environmental factors affect the decision process directly and indirectly. These factors, the economic conditions, legal environment, political environment, geographical factors, and all the environment around the consumer may affect the consumer decision process. All these are coming under the study of consumer behavior. As a next area, by roles of the consumer, like the initiator, influencer, decider, user, buyer, these roles are affecting the consumer decision-making process. In total, the scope of consumer behavior includes all the decision-making process, all the steps coming under this decision-making, and the behavior, actual behavior the consumer expresses at the time of purchase, and all the individual or psychological personal factors affect the consumers, all the surroundings, the environmental factors, external environmental factors affect the consumer, and also the buying roles of the consumer. Now, as a next topic, we can look at the nature of consumer behavior. The nature of consumer behavior includes a number of points. The first point, consumer behavior is a process. We know that behavior is not a single activity. It includes several steps. It includes a series of activities from the identification of a need to the ultimate purchase action. And even after purchase, the post-purchase behavior. That means a number of steps can be seen in the purchase process. Consumer behavior is a systematic process, consists of different steps such as need identification. Here we realize that we need something to satisfy the requirement. then information search relating to the product, then listing of alternatives of brands available. As a next step, we evaluate the alternatives, available alternatives. It may be a cost-benefit analysis. And after this analysis, we make a purchase decision. And then post-purchase evaluation. All these steps can be seen in consumer behavior. So, consumer behavior is considered as a process. And the next feature, consumer behavior is influenced by various factors. We can see that consumer behavior is influenced by a number of factors. The marketing efforts of the marketer, the personal factors like attitudes, values, beliefs, culture of etc. of the person or consumer, the psychological factors, the situations, social factors, economic conditions, and a lot of factors are affecting the consumer in formulating their behavior. Therefore, we can say that consumer behavior is influenced by various factors. The third feature of consumer behavior, that the consumer behavior is different for different consumers. We cannot say that all the consumers have the same behavior. All consumers do not behave in the same manner. Different consumers behave differently. The difference in consumer behavior is due to the individual factors such as their nature, their lifestyle, culture, their economic condition, personality. There may be a lot of reasons for the differences in the behavior. Consumer behavior is different in different persons. The next feature, consumer behavior for different products are different. The behavior of a person, of a consumer towards a certain product may be different if the product is changed to another one. The behavior changes when the product changes. Consumer behavior is different for different products. There are some consumers who may buy more quantity of certain items and very low quantity of some other items. Some consumers purchase certain products in large quantities and some consumers may not purchase the product because he may dislike the product. So as a feature we can say that consumer behavior is different for different products. Next feature, consumer behavior varies across regions. Different behaviors can be seen in different areas, different regions, different nations. The consumer behavior vary across states, regions, and countries. For instance, the behavior of urban consumers is different from the behavior of rural consumers. The behavior of Indians may be different from behavior of Americans. That means the behavior of consumers in different regions, places, or nations may be different. Another feature, consumer behavior is vital for marketers. It is the most relevant factor in formulating the marketing strategy. Marketers need to have a good knowledge of consumer behavior. They need to study various factors that influence consumer behavior of their target consumers. The knowledge of consumer behavior enables marketers to take appropriate marketing decisions. And another feature of consumer behavior, that consumer behavior reflects the status of consumer. By looking at the purchase behavior, we can realize the status of consumer. Consumers' buying behavior is not only influenced by status of a consumer, but it also reflects it. Those consumers who own luxury cars, watches, and other items are considered by others as persons of higher status. Then consumer behavior results in spread effect. The buying behavior of one person may influence the buying behavior of another person. For instance, a customer may always prefer to buy premium brands of clothing, watches, and other items. This may influence some of his friends, neighbors, colleagues, etc. This is one of the reasons why marketers use celebrities like Shah Rukh Khan, Sachin Tendulkar to endorse their brands. When the consumers observe that their friends, their beloveds are using certain types of products, they may also tend to make purchases of the same brand. Another feature of consumer behavior is this: it improves the standard of living. Consumer buying behavior may lead to higher standard of living. The more a person buys the goods and services, the higher is the standard of living of that person. And as a last point, last feature, we can say consumer behavior undergoes a change. It is a never-changing truth that the behavior of consumers is changing. The consumer's behavior undergoes a change over a period of time depending upon changes in age, education, and income level. For instance, kids may prefer colorful dresses, but as they grow up, as teenagers and young adults, they may prefer trendy clothes. The consumer behavior changes when the personality, age, the education, the occupation, etc. of an individual changes.